Good morning, everybody. Stalling Bear here, day 4, starting off from Blood Mountain Cabins. You can see it's raining already. You can probably already see my breath as well. So it's a little chilly and a little wet, which changes my plans somewhat. I'm probably going to only go about 10 miles. I think the shelter there is Neels Gap shelter, and I'm going to try to stay in the shelters over the next couple days. I stayed at the cabin last night because a good opportunity to get a hot shower and get some laundry done before proceeding. So this weather over this next week has kind of changed my plans in that sense that I will probably be going 10 miles today, 15 miles the following day, and then down into top of Georgia as it is right now. We'll see how the weather really holds out and go on from there. So I'm going to pack up the back and get moving out, and we'll see how much videotaping I actually get done today. Okay, starting the morning off at Neels Gap. First white blaze of the day, and going under the only covered section of the whole AT. And here we go. As I mentioned, plans today is to go to Neels Gap shelter, which is actually about 11.9 miles or 6 miles, something like that. So better get a move on. I've been waiting for a decent view of this, and still this doesn't really do it justice either. I've been seeing this for probably the last half hour or so. See how the raindrops look like they're suspended from the tree branches? All of them are covered that way, just little ice droplets. Pretty neat. This is on top of thru-hike Gap. I'm sure it's a beautiful view on a normal day. Not quite the view today. I tell you, you better eat your Wheaties before going up that trail. I've learned that gap means severe decline and followed by severe incline. So that one was a pretty tough one, but all worth it. It's still gray, gloomy, raining, so I wasn't going to be a big fan of the shelters, but the next few days I'm most certainly going to be, as they call it, a shelter rat. Stay as dry as possible in the shelters. Let's go check it out. Good afternoon, everybody. Stalling Bear here. This is actually the afternoon of day 6, but I need to catch up on some of the wrap-ups from the days. I've been staying in the shelters, and it's kind of been noisy and crowded around, and so I want to just kind of take this time at Trey Gap right now to talk about what I did over those past few days. From day 3, I stayed in the Blood Mountain Cabins, and on day 4, the morning of day 4, I left Neels Gap about 11 o'clock. Kind of a late start, but I wanted to download one of the videos that was in progress, and gave me time also to text back and forth with Denai. The first real communication that we had for a while. Phone service has been sketchy. Texting has been our main mode of communication, and most of that is good morning, good night, and sometimes I receive it later in the day, and so does she when I finally have phone coverage. So it's good to spend that time there to touch base with her and make sure everything was doing well. From Neels Gap, I've learned, and maybe I said this already, but a gap just is another word for steep decline followed by a steep incline. Coming out of Neels Gap, I didn't find it terribly bad, but it was raining already when I started. And then when I came up around, it had a few switchbacks on it, stony across that way. And then when I came across kind of down to the downside of it, I saw a hiker headed my way. So I asked him, "Hey, where are you headed today?" He said, "I'm headed back." He said, "I'm just not prepared for this." He was just doing some section hiking, and he started at Springer. And when I saw him, he was in shorts and leggings, so he probably wasn't ready for the colder weather on that. And so he was going to re-gear and try later in a month or two, he said. So further on past that, and I don't know if I mentioned it in my video at the Blood Mountain Cabins, I did run into Act Old later, and she was preparing to take Misty, one of the workers there at Blood Mountain Cabins, on a little section hike so that she can gain some experience on that. So I saw them the next day, shortly after I saw that gentleman, probably about half hour, 45 minutes later. No, it was probably later than that. But they both were really enjoying it, and it was good for Misty to get some experience. Now, they take care of you at Blood Mountain Cabins. I checked in. She said, "You know, if you hurry up and get your laundry here, I can take care of it." I'm like, "Take care of it?" I was expecting to be pumping quarters into a machine and spending my time watching the dryer go round and round. And she said, "No, if you get it up here, I can have it for you right away." So I brought it up, and then I came up and tried to get the internet working, and she brought my laundry out, and I asked her, "How much I owe you?" She says, "Nothing." I'm like, I was just completely shocked with that. I was even more shocked when I offered her a tip and she declined it, and I had to basically force it on her, because I'm like, "Listen, I was expecting to be sitting in a laundromat, you know, wasting my time, and you provided great service here, so I appreciate it." As I found already in a short time, that the hiker community takes care of each other, and if they see somebody in need, they will do what they can to help them out. So after I passed them, continued on, and I was really questioning why the guy turned back, because it seemed to be pretty mellow, the wind had died down, the rain wasn't that bad, but as soon as I got up on the ridge, the rain started pelting me, and it wasn't rain any longer, it was sleet. So it pelted me for a while. Then I came upon, I really should do this that day of so I can remember all these, Tenacity Gap coming up there. Woo! That's a haul right there. That'll wake you up in the morning to go across there. And then once you get up and across there, there's a shelter, and it read 1.2 miles to the shelter. I'm like, well, that's 1.2 miles I could be to my destination of Low Gap, and that was my intent from the beginning of the day. I figured it was right under 12 miles, 11 point something. I thought even with the later start, I could do that with the terrain that we did it. And I got in there in a decent time in order to get everything set up and eat, before it got dark and everything. So that worked out well. When I was at the shelter, I ran into Jersey and Redneck, and Robert was his name at that particular time. He hadn't had a trail name, and by the end of the next morning, he adopted Flatlander. So he and I are both from Florida, so Flatlander works with that, and he's one of those flat earth people as well, so it ties in together. And then we had Silver Sprinter, and in the morning he was preparing to leave, and all he was wearing was a kilt, a rain kilt, and his boxers. And Redneck said, "Your name should be Silver Streaker." So we keep referring to him as Silver Streaker. I wonder if Silver, because he was going all the way to Trey Mountain that next morning, and we were going on just to Blue Mountain to stop there because the weather was pretty horrible throughout the day. So that pretty much wraps up day 4.